or said, "Who's that?" David Roth. And I was hoping it might be a matchup for what you're saying today, Russ. And I'm really glad you're here to hear one of my favorite speakers. My favorite bass player. This is the year for making changes. This is the year for moving on. This is the year of overcoming. This is the year for growing strong. This is the year for a new way of thinking. This is the year for making plans. This is the year for reaching out, and this is the year for joining hands. Gone are the lonely nights of yearning, gone are the dark and cloudy skies, all the unsteady bridges burning, all of the doubt and all of the lies. This is the chance to recapture the power. This is the time to abandon the fear. This is the moment, the finest hour. This is the year, this is the year. This is the year that I put into action all my desires and all of my means. This is the year that I follow my passion. This is the year of my dreams. This is the year I'm letting go of trying to change the ones I love. This is the year I turn it over. This is the year I look above. This is the year that I take my intention, turn it away from distraction and talk. This is the year that I take the step, and this is the year I walk the walk. This is the year that I put into action all my desires and all of my needs. This is the year that I follow my passion. This is the year of my dreams. This is the year I make it happen. This is the year I follow through. This is the year I move ahead on all of the things I want to do. This is the chance to renew my commitment. This is the time to be conscious and clear. This is the moment for living fully. This is the year, this is the year. This is the year. This is the year. This is the year.
All right. Thanks, Julie and Doug. That was wonderful. Very good. So it is time for our guest minister to give the lesson for the day. And I'm happy to have Russ Sorensen here. Reverend Russ, he's spoken here before, but I think it was quite a while ago. And he speaks regularly all around Northern Illinois. I don't know if you get into Wisconsin too much, but we'll see. Maybe you'll get into Wisconsin a little more. We'll see. Okay, well, let's welcome Russ here.
Good morning, everybody. It's nice to be here. It's like when you come to certain places, you have fond memories, that you've been before. And I have a lot of fond memories from this place and the people here. I love what you did with the prayer, requests for prayer, and then how you brought that together for everybody here. Because unity it's a healing ministry. Unity is a healing ministry. And I want to start by blessing this microphone. I don't know, it might be my floppy ears, but it was perfect.
Here, let's try something different.
Okay. Those of you out in video land, don't try this at home. Let's do your opening statement of faith again, because that was going to be a part of what I'm going to talk about. There is only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life, God the good, omnipotent. How many times do you think that's been said in unity churches? Do we believe that? How many powers do you have in your life? You know, we talk about God that's omnipotent, omniscient. Everybody talks about, all religions talk about the omniscience of God, that God is everywhere present, always present, completely present. But a lot of times when we talk about God, and that includes unity people, we talk about more of the absence than the presence. Where is God in all of this? And there's so many things that happen in the world today, you wonder where God is. Or when we get an experience of a healing need, and you know, if you feel like in unity, we read daily word every day. At our house, we read daily inspiration too, which is from Johnny Coleman's ministry. You know, we set ourselves up every morning for those things. We meditate, and still, we can be confronted with things. And what do we say? It's like the song we opened with. We think about impossibility. You know, Stowe talks about in that song about Orville and Wilbur Wright. You know, why could they fly and others couldn't? Because they could envision themselves in the air. A lot of times when we try to think about things in our own life, we envision ourselves being stopped instead of being set free and allowed to fly. Myrtle Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, could never have been healed if she didn't believe that all things were possible. And it wasn't easy for her. You know, we sometimes think she just went to hear E.B. Weeks and heard that, you know, I am a child of God, and therefore I do not inherit sickness. She heard that. She started affirming that. She started thinking different on the outside, but it took her 2 years to be healed. Remember the movie, The Secret? I remember seeing that at Unity in Oak Park. Everybody was buzzed up at the end of it. But then most of us, by the time we got to our car and reached for the handle, it was gone, right? Because we hadn't taken it into our consciousness. It hadn't become a part of us. Joel Goldsmith, who's a healer and a teacher and has written a lot of books. Anybody know Joel Goldsmith? Well, some people call him an absolutist. And that's sort of a way of saying, well, he's an absolutist. That's enough of that kind of stuff. But he talks a lot about the idea that there is one power, there is one presence in the universe and in my life, God the good, omnipotent. If there's one power and presence, there can be no others. But what are the powers that confront us? Illness, disease, lack, poverty, or poverty. That's something I don't know how to define that yet, but I'm sometimes afraid of that. But we also are afraid of big bombs, right? More and more of them. Got Russia saying, oh, we're not going to abide by this nuclear war treaty anymore, and that gets people all upset. But if there's one power and there's one presence in the universe and in my life, there can be no other powers. It's normal when you hear prayer requests from people that healing is in the top 2, okay? And I know what that's like in my own life. Some of you know my wife, Kathy, and she's going through something, and we're trying to see her go through something. And I'm gonna, can I just use this? Okay, thank you. I am free, I am unlimited. She's going through something quite now, and she's the great Unity student. I think she's a better one than me. But it's a health challenge. She probably wouldn't like it that I'm talking about it, but it's a part of what I'm speaking about today. Because when you go to doctors, sometimes they didn't hear that song we sang in the beginning, because they put a name on it. It's not just a diagnosis, they give you a prognosis. And when we get that, the only way we're going to be healed to overcome it is first to envision it, to experience, and to get ourselves in the right place. There used to be a guy at Union in Chicago. He would always say, I told me about his life, and it was quite a life. It could be a movie. And he said, I said, how did you overcome this? He goes, I had to get rid of my stinking thinking. And that's what we need to do. And we need to hold to it and realize that there's one power and one presence. That's what Myrtle had to do. That's what countless other people that have had overcomings, whether it's prosperity, whether it's peace, forgiveness in their life. We all have different things that we want to overcome. And the way we do that is to remember who and what we are. Imelda Shanklin, who is a great Unity teacher and writer, and I have a great experience with her, although she died before I was born. She's a big part of my life because the first Unity book I ever read was by her. And she has a book called What Are You? And in this book, she talks about us that we forget what we are. We think of what you are. You know, I've a man, I was born this year. This is my credit rating. This is all this different stuff that we are. But she'll keep going. What are you? And if I keep asking you and don't accept your resume, I say, what are you? What are you? What are you? How are you going to respond to me? A child of God. Right. One time we were talking about my mentor minister, Richard Billings from Oak Park, and I was ranting and raving about something. And he said, you're a child of God, Russell. Why don't you act like it? You know, I was hurt by that, but then I thought, damn it, he's right. You know, there's a story in the Bible, in the Gospel of John, and it starts out, there was a man who had 2 sons. And to us, that doesn't sound like a really barn burner of a statement. But to Jesus's audience of Jewish people in that day, they would have went, uh-oh, because they knew what it was going to be about. And as he said it, I've been told by people that are sort of experts in that time, like Rocco Errico, that they would have been pulling their beards. I got an example right here. I don't know. He doesn't want to mess it up. There you go. There you go. Thank you. A visual aid if you can't see it. And the story's, you know, one of the prodigal son. There's an older son, and he's going to inherit everything. That's the way it was. That was beyond question. And there's a younger son who's irritated by this, you know, that he's never going to get to that place. There's nothing he can do except for the death of his brother. And there's plenty of examples of that in the Bible. And I know maybe it doesn't seem relevant today, but all we have to do is think about Prince William and Prince Harry. Well, the younger son sort of felt like, well, I'm going to dad. I'm going to ask him, say, I want my share, and I'm going to leave. Again, they'd be pulling beards, especially when they heard he did it. He gave him the father gave him half of everything he had. The young man waited a few days and then took off, and he had fun. He, you know, wine, women, and song, it says, you know, and then eventually, and of course, he had all the friends in the world while he was dishing it out. But then it came to this point where it says there was a famine in the land, and he didn't have any money and he didn't know what to do. It was over. He had to find work. He found work, and the work he found, this is a Jewish man, remember, was feeding the hogs. And he found himself, he didn't have anything to eat. He was eating these pods, these carob beans, that they would feed to the hogs. And when he did this, you ever had one of these moments when you go, what the heck am I doing? And it says in the gospel something very powerful. And he came unto himself. Have you ever had one of those moments? And he decided that he was going to go home. He even sort of plans it all. What he's going to have a speech. He's going to talk to his dad. I'll do this, Dad. I'm sorry. Well, I don't deserve to be your son. I'll be a slave, because he was thinking the slaves in my father's employ, if you will, have more than I have. So he goes back, but his father was expecting his return. His father meets him, embraces him. It freaked the son out. He welcomed him home. And the son's speech that he talked about, I'll be willing to be a slave for you. He forgot that part when he told him that. But that's really because he had a shift in consciousness, a growth in consciousness. He wasn't going to be one that was enslaved to negative thinking. And he came home. And if you know the story, the dad was happy. He did all these different things, gave him rings, gave him a cloak, and he gave him new shoes, new sandals. Do we have any metaphysicians here that know what sandals represent? Understanding. He had to have a new understanding. Think about Moses when he was with the burning bush. Took off your shoes, right? I sort of look at that as we got to remember that we're standing on holy ground, wherever we are. Everything was good. They slaughtered the fatted calf. Then the older brother, remember him? We didn't talk about him. He heard about this. He was, I think in the Bible it says in Hebrew, he was kicked off. And he goes to his dad and he goes, what's up with this? Because he wasn't going to go to the celebration. Dad heard about this. He's like, he's just belly aching about this whole situation. How could you do this? I've stayed here. I've done everything I'm supposed to do. I've worked the fields. I've done everything I'm been told to do. It says that the young son went into a far country. The older son was in a far country too, because he was doing it all for obligation. And the dad says something, and I want to read it to you because it's too beautiful for me to switch up. He says, son, you were always with me, and all that is mine is yours. We don't realize that all that God is ours. We're worried about what's happening out here instead of knowing what's happening inside of us. I think part of the issue is that we really don't understand what God is. We can say that God is omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent, but what do we mean by God? It says in the gospel in Genesis that we are created in the image and after the likeness of God. But what does that mean? What is God? What do you think about when you think about God? Creator? Unconditional love? Forgiveness?
We're never alone.
Never alone? Joy. Have any of you ever been to Rome? If you've been there, you probably went to the Vatican? And you walked into the Sistine Chapel and you looked up at that incredible artistic masterpiece by Michelangelo. And one of the scenes there is a picture of God. And he's a white guy. He's muscular, he's old, he's got white hair and a white beard. Again, I'm going to use you as an object lesson here. And he's pointing toward Adam, right? I have this vision, and I have visions a lot, of Jesus walking into the Sistine Chapel and looking up and asking somebody, who's that? There's a story about Jesus in John 2, and the disciples are going on a journey. And they get to this space where they have to decide which way they're going to go, the shortcut or the long way. I guarantee you that the disciples wanted to take the shortcut the long way, because the shortcut took them through a place called Samaria. We've heard the parable of the Good Samaritan, and we think those Samaritans were rocking. He helped somebody nobody else would. But when his Jewish audience heard that, they would have went, what are you talking about, a Good Samaritan? Because there had differences theologically, it had mistrust, it had festered in the hatred and all this kind of stuff. I know it's hard for us to believe in this day and age that there is any difference of opinion in the Middle East. But there was then, just as there is today. So they went into Samaria. It says it was hot out, it was noon. Jesus looks for water, the disciples went looking for food. Jesus finds a well, and being a man of his time, he did not expect anybody to be there, I'm sure, because all the women in the community would have gathered their water for their families early in the day when it was cooler, or later in the night when it was cooler. But when he went there, there was somebody there, and he starts to have this conversation with a Samaritan. That's remarkable in and of itself. But what makes it miraculous is that the Samaritan that he had this conversation with was a woman. No self-respecting Jewish man, no self-respecting Samaritan man would ever have a conversation with a woman they didn't know. Now, in the Bible, it goes into the reason the woman was there. She was an outcast from her community. And it tells you, if you're really interested, it's like the Inquirer, you can go look and see all the things she did. But the thing was, there's something else. And it's something for me that has really impacted my life. Jesus talked to her about the nature of God from his perspective. He used to have those commercials. There are a lot of older people like me here, E.F. Hutton. Well, to me, it'd be like Jesus of Nazareth. And he's telling us what the nature of God is. He said, God is spirit. Boom. Makes me quiver when I hear that. Because we're not thinking God is spirit when we're looking up at that picture by Michelangelo. Granted, it's a beautiful picture. It's a work of art. But when I hear God as spirit, I hearken back to the Old Testament, to the book of the Hebrew Bible, the book of Genesis, where it says that we are created in the image and after the likeness of God. This means, I'm not Jesus, but listen to me. This means if God is spirit, we are first, foremost, eternally, and infinitely spiritual beings. That's our true identity. That's what we've forgotten. When we don't know what we are, we have what Imelda Shanklin called spiritual amnesia. I wish overcoming spiritual amnesia was as easy as it would be in old situation comedies or cartoons. A guy get bonked on the head, he'd have amnesia, and then somebody come up with the idea, let's bonk him again. Well, I had lumps all over my head if I was trying to overcome spiritual amnesia like that. But it's important that we realize who we are, the oneness that we are. And those are powerful stories. Eric Butterworth says that in that little parable of the prodigal son is the entire message of the Bible and the teachings of Jesus. How do we get to that place where we begin to think more about our spiritual identity than what's going on in the outside world? First of all, we got to call ourselves back. Myrtle Fillmore in her healing journey had to do that all the time. Oldest son Lowell said that even after she heard E.B. Weeks, she was still giving us every patent medicine that came along, So I figure back in those days, she was drunk most of the time because that's what most of them were. And it's going to help you get through that. But she kept doing it. Ernest Wilson, another Unity minister that I know spoke in Unity, Milwaukee at one point, I don't know about this location or not, said, go first to God and then to man as God directs. That's what Kathy and I are doing. I keep my mouth shut when we're at the doctor's. That's the only time I keep my mouth shut. in case you were wondering. And when they say it's impossible, I say nuts. You know, I got a new doctor years ago. And how they ask you those medical questions about, you know, your medical history and stuff like this. And it's bothered me. Insurance exams, you do that, you know, and it had on there all this stuff on my parents' names and yada, yada. And I put on there, I am a child of God, therefore I do not inherit sickness.
Yay.
Well, it gets better. The nurse comes back with the paper, and I'm thinking she's going to go, come on, get real, pal. She says, I know what you mean. I go to Unity of Naperville. But that's what we are, a community. That's why you come here. That's why you should invite your friends here. Unity changes people's lives. I don't have a magic formula, I wish I did. But we get down when we hear bad news. But we're going to be built up when we remember that I am a child of God and therefore I do not inherit sickness. I am a child of God and therefore everything I need is available to me. But we, like the prodigal son who was living high on the hog, I shouldn't say that, but he was living that way, right? And he wanted more. What about Adam and Eve? You know, they got it all. Why do you think they did it? And why do we do it? Because we want meaning in our life. We want self-realization. We want to know why we're here. And we weren't put on this earth to be robots. Otherwise, what are we doing here? So if we have all our needs fulfilled, but we don't feel fulfilled. So we want to step out. You know, the older son in that story probably did want to leave, but he thought that was the wrong thing to do. But you know, we can leave his home, but we can never leave God. And God will never, never leave us. Wherever I am, God is, and all is well. I'm going to leave you with some recommendations for the book of What Are You by Melda Shanklin. I know you can get it online. You can download it or whatever. You know, you could actually get those things. Again, we're old enough here to know it's a hardcover thing. You open it up like this when you get a book and read it. This woman knew whereof she spoke. People in Unity said she was a woman who spoke with authority because she embodied the Unity teachings and beliefs. And we can do it too because we already embody God. Here's what I want to close with. It's some words that Eric Butterworth wrote in the end of Discover the Power Within You. There's another recommendation if you haven't read that. I thought I was in a different church. I almost said shame on you. He says, the great sin of mankind is not to know the divinity that lies unexpressed within every individual. The time is now. The kingdom of God may begin its unfoldment into the world right at this moment. We sing, let peace begin with me. That's the only place it can begin. And it may find in you a starting point. Make the great discovery for yourself. Knowledge of the divine potential in you will not only lead to great new things for you, it will also help you play a great role in the next development of humankind. Namaskar. Behold yourself in a mirror and say, Namaskar. I salute the divinity in you. I eventually say it, but first I go, you know, they say we reflect our thoughts, and I go, what are you thinking? But it is divine who we are. That's not bragging. That's expressing the truth. That's how all those great people did what they were able to do. That's why we think of them as great. And then go out and act the part. Behold all the people of your world, friends and enemies, neighbors and strangers, namaskar, and then treat them as if you were what they should be. You will be an influence in making them what they can be. In this way, your life will have meaning, no matter where you are on the ladder of life, no matter what you may be experiencing, no matter how many heartaches you have had and how many conflicts you have right now. There is more in you. There is divinity in you. The kingdom of God is within you. You can release your potential, for Jesus proved that you have it and that you can release it. And that is what Jesus really taught. Some people talk about the will of God. We have to understand the willingness that is God. We cannot ask for more than God can give us, because we have it all. But having it is not the goal in life. Being is. Being that which we truly are. Have you ever been in a room with somebody, when they walk in, you feel their presence? Your head turns, you know it. I remember years ago before I was a minister in Chicago in the Palmer House. My back was to this one door. All of a sudden, there was no noise. I just felt something. And I turned around, and it was the Dalai Lama. This is before he was a rock star in those times. But that's you. You're all rock stars. On this rock, I will build my church. And what he said that to Peter? And what does Peter represent metaphysically? That's it, I'm leaving. Faith, faith, faith. And we can develop faith when we know the truth, because then we believe. There are no obstacles, right? There are no obstacles. Thank you. Okay. Let's just take a moment to be still and quiet, open and receptive. Place yourself in a position that's not necessarily a position you saw in a book, but that's comfortable to you and for you. And settle into your body. And as you do that, allow yourself to be present in this moment. And be still. Be still and know. There is one power and one presence in the universe and in your life. And that is God, the good, omnipotent. God is not powerful because God is power itself. God is not wise because God is wisdom. And in this power and presence, the only true power and presence. There is no idea of illness, disease, lack, hate, and fear. No idea of that. That's why we do what we're doing right now. To abide consciously in the presence of all love, of all health, of all substance. Become acquainted, become familiar, and then realize as you come unto yourself, I am God in expression. And the expression of God is only those things that God is: health, wholeness, abundance, peace, love, and joy. That's your spiritual DNA. That's the only DNA that matters. Because when we have this self-realization and come unto ourselves, we enter into this knowing. And we begin to see ourselves in this light, as this light. Hear the voice of Spirit say within you, "Thou art my child, in whom I am well pleased. And I love you. I love you." There is nothing you could ever do or not do that would change, inhibit, or increase my love for you. Because my love is not in degrees, it is in the fullness of infinity. So we start where we are right now, being still, knowing, and being assured that there is one power and there is one presence in the universe and in my life. God, the good, omnipotent. You can begin now to come to an awareness of this room, of your body, of all those souls that are with us here in person, in spirit. First to ourselves and then to them we say, Namaste. Namaste. And so it is.
Thank you, Russ. We really appreciate that. What a great meditation. Well, now is the time in our service where we get to freely give of our gifts and help support our center here. So please take your gift in your hand and repeat the offering prayer with me. There is no lack or limitation. Freely I give and freely I receive from God's abundance. I am blessed as I give, and unity is blessed in receiving. And we're going to have some more music. So Julie and Doug, come on up.
Civil rights movement leader Ella Baker said words such as "give light and the people will find the way." And a duo put a little song together with her words. And you'll be able, it's a zipper song. So maybe something specific from today we'll come up with, but we'll start with "Give Light." Start with the melody and you'll play it on the mando. Give light and the people will find the way. Give light, and the people will find a way. Give light, and the people will find a way. People will find a way to believe. We're gonna sing Teach Peace now. Teach peace, and the people will find a way. Teach peace, and the people will find a way. Teach peace, and the people will find a way. People will find a way to believe. Give love, and the people will find a way. Give love, and the people will find a way. Give love, and the people will find a way. People will find a way to believe. Give light, and the people will find a way. Give light, and the people will find a way. Give light, and the people will find a way. People will find a way to believe. Does anybody want to contribute to this before we end it? Ideas? Joy. Give joy, and the people will. How about be joy too? Be joy, and the people will find a way. Be joy, and the people will find a way. People will find a way to believe. Anything else you want to add? Be truth. Speak truth. Speak truth, and the people will find a way. Speak truth, and the people will find a way. Speak truth, and the people will find a way. People will find a way. Give light then. All right, here we go. Give light, and the people will find the way. Give light, and the people will find the way. Give light, and the people will find the way. People will find the way to believe. People will find a way to believe. People will find a way, I do believe.
And Doug, and all of you who sang along. Okay, it's time to bless our tithes and offerings. So please send out your energy to bless this basket and all that's within it. We know that we give of our hearts and we give with gratitude, knowing that our donations help keep the center alive and well and a beacon of light to those in our community. We ask that we continue to attract more and more people to the unity truths, and that we are able to serve as a center of the community and attract more and more people here to help use our facilities. For this we pray in the name of Spirit. Amen. All right, we have announcements. So I'm sure there's a lot of great things going on here. Okay, Joanne Bauman will be here next week. She's going to talk on one of the 12 powers, the power for the month of March, and that is the power of wisdom. Our Unity book study is still Reading Kindred. That's Thursdays at 9:30 in person or virtual. 9:30 to 11. And at 11, we have our silent unity prayer that goes from 11 to 11:15. If anyone wants to join virtually, just reach out to me. If you want to come in person, just come. Come right here. Discussion groups. Course in Miracles is Sundays at 11:45. Are we having that today, Joanne?
I'm here.
Okay, so we're here if anyone wants to join in the discussion. And then our life journey group is still reading The Quest. That's this Monday at 6:30. And we're going to be talking about the silence, meaning meditation. So there's some really good information in there. Don't forget to visit our website. There's past Sunday services, weekly guided meditations, inspiring insights that you can read, and all the announcements of things that are going on. And we can always use volunteers, jobs large and small, once a month, once a week. On-the-job training is provided, so please reach out to Diane. Where are you, Diane?
Probably in the kitchen.
Oh, she's in the kitchen. See, we're short of volunteers today. Yeah, so, okay. Our annual bake sale and potluck will be April 30th after our membership meeting. Or the day of our membership meeting, rather. So please mark that on your calendars. If there's anybody that wants to be a member of Unity, please see me or one of the other board members, and we'll try to get some training scheduled for you so that by April 30th, you will be a member in good standing and can vote in our election of board members. So I think I just covered that. Okay, today is potluck and games, and you are certainly welcome to stay and have some food with us, Reverend Russ, and you could even play Pictionary with us if you're not in too big of a hurry, but we won't take it personally if you have to get back to your wife. So, but please stick around for a little bit if you can. Okay, let's all rise and we'll sing "Let There Be Peace on Earth."
Prayer after.
Oh, yes, Linda is our chaplain, and so she will be over by the prayer box, and she will be happy to pray with anyone over any concerns immediately following the service. Our God protects. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we is and growing. All right, thank you. No, yeah. So I noticed they're recorded pretty quietly, but I mean, I could turn it up high enough to listen to it. So, yes.